call the port meeting to order at this time. The machine is open. Roll call vote, please. All 9 council members are present. This time we'll say the prayer and the pledge of allegiance.
Bow our heads. We take this moment to acknowledge Almighty God and thank Him for our bountiful blessings, especially for the parish's natural resources. We pray for the protection of our parish, residents, and businesses during this hurricane season. We give thanks to God for our brave and courageous men and women in our military who daily risk their lives to protect our precious freedom. And we pray for our world leaders to know how to obtain world peace. We also pray that this government body, comprised of both council and administration, will always serve our parish with honesty, humility, and equality to all. And as this government body gathers here today, we pray for the wisdom to know right from wrong and the courage to do that which is right. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any executive sessions?
No, sir.
Next item, please.
Status report by the Executive Port Director.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, and members of the board. I am Sandy Sanders, Executive Director of Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District. Follows is my Executive Director's report for the reporting period of 23 August through 11 September 2019. During this time period, we had our third meeting with a Colombian South American port delegation. We are discussing possibilities of a North American-South American sister port relationship and are now looking at beneficial cargo owner cargo flows. We met with the Port of Morgan City, which has made huge advances in securing a dredge for their jurisdiction. Based upon their successes thus far, I met with CPRA this morning to ascertain the possibilities of the port purchasing a dredge and marrying it up with CPRA coastal restoration projects. Further to the point, I have a meeting with the colonel at the Corps of Engineers, District Corps of Engineers tomorrow morning to review our port projects and to discuss the possibility of the port owning a dredge and satisfying the dredging requirements in our jurisdiction. Mr. Chairman, subject to your questions or comments or those of the board, this concludes my report.
Any questions from the table? Audience? Next item. I'm sorry, Mr. LaFrance. Go ahead. Mr. LaFrance.
Mr. Sanders, several weeks ago, we participated in a meeting. I would like to say I was uncomfortable with the meeting. And for me to participate in a meeting like that next time, I would like to know who's going to be there and what is the agenda.
What is the meeting you're referring to, Mr. LaFrance?
The meeting that me and Mr. Roussel attended at your office. You remember?
Yes, sir. I know the meeting, and I was under the impression that, first of all, everyone was invited, and the topics to be discussed had been made very clear. And we were going to bring the port board members up to snuff on things that we have been working on that are heretofore covered by NDAs, and that we were nearing completion on a lot of these projects, and wanted to inform you of what was happening and that we would be coming back for port approval on these projects. Now, if you felt that you were not duly notified of what was going to be at the meeting or what it was about, then I take that on me, and I will improve our communications in the future to ensure that an agenda will be set forth prior to the meeting, and any questions prior to the meeting. Obviously, we're open dialogue here, so feel free to give us a call.
Thank you, but some of the things was discussed there didn't have anything to do with any of the projects that was ongoing.
Okay.
Thank you.
And any comments from the table? Audience? Next item, please.
3A, financial report, budget to actual.
Nothing to report at this moment.
Next item. Next item, please.
There are no bids and advertisements. Introduction of ordinances and resolutions.
Mr. Councilman Black? None. I have none.
None.
Okay.
A resolution to create a policy wherein all anticipated land acquisition expenditures, which are $250,000 or above, must have a second independent appraisal before the purchase can be made, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Yep. Mr. Conover? So, before we move into the reading of the ordinance for the second time and final passage, are there any withdrawals? I have 6E is withdrawn. Anybody else have any withdrawals? Mr. Russo, deferrals.
At this time, I've been asked to defer 6AB. Administration is in Washington right now and would like to discuss this in detail further, unless you have the answers. Okay, thank you.
Any more withdrawal or deferrals? Okay, move forward, please.
6A1, I'm sorry, 6B, a resolution of the Plaquemines Parish Council acting as a
No,
sole,
it's deferred.
oh, I thought it was 6, I'm sorry.
6 is deferred, 6B is deferred, and 6E is withdrawn.
Got it, thank you. 6C, a resolution authorizing Maynard J. Sandy Sanders, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor Terminal District, to enter into a professional services agreement with Coastal Engineering Solutions, LLC, relevant to the engineering services needed for the beneficial use of dredge material known as BudMap, project to dredge Tiger Pass and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Offer is read. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Newberry. Questions from the table?
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. LaFrance?
Do we know what we're going to do with the material?
The Army Corps has not made a decision yet on where they're going to put the material. They're still having meetings, there are weekly meetings which I attend, or a staff member would attend if I cannot, to have the full discussion and work through the process of where they're going to move the material. We have said, from our position, that obviously there has to be an economic benefit within the parish to where to move the material to protect businesses that are already there and also to attract businesses. But they have their own process to look at all of the options. And we are working with them along with Mr. Helmers, who's been at a few of the meetings to decrease those options as they look at all of them and fine tune them so we can get to the final spot. But that has not been decided yet.
And the Corps has the capacity to do this, perform this job.
The Corps?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The Corps is going to do the job as far as put in the settlement wherever we, at the end of the day, make a decision to do. But right now, they're just going through the sausage making part, if you will, of looking at all the options, and we're putting in our 2 cents of where we're interested in putting possibly the dredge material. But it's for us, it's based on what is in the best interest economically for the development within the district, as opposed to any other places that would not benefit the district.
Okay, thank you.
Right?
Sure. So I just want to paint a picture for folks here and at home. This project has 2 parts, correct? There's the actual dredging of Tiger Pass, which there's funding secured for. And what we're asking for today here is the funding for the engineering and design for the BudMat portion. So to get that sediment further inland, is that correct?
Yeah, this is part of the design agreement. So we've already agreed with the Corps that we're going to work on a design agreement. However, we don't have an in-house engineering team. So within that match and the cost of the match that we would have for the design agreement, we are selecting an engineering firm that would help us do the design. And so the cost that we've already agreed to with the Corps, this would not be addition to this. It would be within that match portion. We're just selecting an engineering firm.
Go ahead, please.
And so with that, we are making the recommendation that we would use Coastal Engineering. And one of the main reasons why we're asking that, we recommend that Coastal Engineering would serve in this position is because of the work that they're doing with Plaquemines Parish government, in particular with John Helmers, who I have a document here in which Mr. Helmers recommends Coastal Engineering Solutions because of the work that they're doing with parish government, their experience, and it just makes sense that they also work with us. And we see that as synergy, if you will.
Certainly. So is the Bud Matt portion of this project funded, or is the money we're going to dedicate today, if the council decides that, is this for a plan that is going to sit on the shelf, or is this project shovel-ready and will absolutely be built, and we're not going to do engineering design on any sort of speculative project? Is that?
No, it's our understanding that this is not a engineering design on a speculative project. Absolutely not. We would not have entered into this agreement with the Corps if this was speculative. The whole purpose is that we're moving forward with their process with the Bud Matt project. So we're not dedicating any funds today. We're just picking an engineering group that would work with us in this process. That's what we're doing today.
And the Corps of Engineers has not did any engineering design work on their own for the Bud Matt portion of the dredging of Tiger Pass. Is that correct?
That's what we're working on right now, of trying to decide where would the dredging material go, and part of that design is working with us, and so we want to have a group, an engineering firm, to work in kind, essentially, to help us in that process. And this is all of the Corps' process. As far as specifics of where they are in the design, I would actually, it'd be better to talk to Ms. Jackson or Mr. Broussard as far as what stage we're in of the design. I cannot speak to that directly, but what we're talking about today is just deciding on what team we're using to help us with this project.
I just want to be very, very clear that we're not going to spend $150,000 to design a project that, either the Corps of Engineers may have done engineering design already on, or they're trying to secure that prematurely.
Right. I got you. Because I agree, it'd be essentially a waste of time. I understand that, yeah.
And $150,000 of public money.
Right.
But I just want to make sure that we're absolutely clear that the Corps of Engineers is not going to design this project themselves. Are they not going to engineer this project themselves? The Bud Matt portion of
The design the process.
the design, the engineering design phase of the Bud Matt portion of the Tiger Pass dredging is the Corps. I just want to make it very, very clear that
No, it's in coordination with the port. That's why we had a design agreement.
Okay, because I went in, I tried to do a little research, and it seems to be not very clear, or they're already setting off on this process on their own. I just want to make sure we're not going to.
If you'd like for me to set up some meetings with you, myself, Ms. Jackson, Mr. Broussard, and Mr. Helmers, I'd be more than willing to do that. Would that help?
Absolutely, and
Okay.
have asked here in this space multiple times.
Well, there's a weekly meeting at the Corps regarding the design agreement. So if you'd like to attend, you're more than welcome to attend, and I will give the entire board the schedule of the meetings and location at the Corps, and you can attend. Does that help?
Very much so.
But
Is that, Mr. Blank, you finished?
I was understanding that the Corps already did the research, and they just want us to say, put the mud here, put the mud there.
I've been in, I think, 4 meetings now, John, with the Corps. I don't think that's where we are right now, because we're still having discussions and debates of the process, and also where to put the material. So we're not fully there yet.
We the ones changing the sites. The Corps engineers already had a site picked out, where they was gonna dredge it, right?
Well, oh yeah, the location for the dredging is not the issue.
The mud, putting the mud, the dredge material.
For the beneficial use dredging, yeah, that's still not decided.
Because do we have the match money to pump it so many miles up the canal? What's it gonna cost us once we get this site? And co-engineer said, okay, you gotta pay X amount of dollars to get it there. Do we have that money?
We don't even have what that price tag is. We're just in the design phase of this project. You're asking for, how long is it going to take us to walk, and we're still crawling here. So
It's gonna be close to 4 million, so
I do not have that number. I'm sorry.
if we put it where they want, it's free.
I have not heard that. But if that's true, I do need to check on that. So
Because
Excuse me. Finish?
if they dredge it and just put the material on the side of the banks, it's free.
okay,
If we want them to put the mud in a certain area,
all right.
then we got to pay to get the mud to that area.
Right. So what we're talking, right. So we can have that conversation further offline and have you part of the meetings. But, for now, what we're talking about is using this team to be part of doing work in kind, representing the port on the design agreement. But we can work together on seeing what is the best avenue afterwards. Yeah.
Like I said, I thought the Corps already did the engineering of it and all, and even if we want to put it in this spot, they already know the engineering of it. So now we're going to re-engineer the wheel? Or-
Also, I had mentioned that if there was a cost to put it someplace other than where they wanted to put it, that we were going to work with CPRA to get one of their projects and use their piggy bank. And that I'd also spoken with you about possibility you and I, knocking on some doors down there with some of these larger companies, if they're going to benefit from the protection, how about some little scratch?
Couple of them, and they said it's not going to protect them. So,
Okay.
we could go talk to them again but
Well, we don't get it unless we ask. That's for one thing. And that also our David Vitter, our representative up in Washington, D.C., we're going to be meeting with him and going up and looking for pots of money for this project. But we have to find out exactly what it is. But I've also socialized that with both of our senators so they know that we're coming up about that.
And then if we going to piggyback on CPRA, we're not going to use their engineering. We're going to hire one on our own.
Well, when we piggyback with CPRA, what we're really talking about is just the differential cost of the Corps dumping it where they wanted to for free versus where they wanted it. So that cost is what we're looking at as far as getting help from CPRA or some of your constituents in your area.
All right, thank you.
Dewey? Counsel?
If I may, though, I think that was a good suggestion. If y'all two wanted to come to the Corps and sit down with them, I think that would be a good idea. So you have a total comfort level with what's going on.
Blake?
So to summarize, what is funded currently for the dredging of Tiger Pass would be to place the material out of the channel and right on the banks of Tiger Pass. And what y'all are asking for is the engineering design component of the bud mat portion, which is going to cost, which we don't have the $4 million for, to move the material up into the basin further. Correct? Is this correct?
We're talking about selecting an engineering firm that would help us within the design agreement that we have already agreed upon to design where the dredging material and the whole process to pick the spot that would be in the best economic interest for the district and the parish. That's what we're talking about today. As far as the construction costs, if you're asking that, I don't have that answer, but I can put you in touch with those that either may have the answer or after we get past the design portion can answer that question. So that is not the question on the table today, though, however. But moving forward offline, we can help get that question answered for you.
Okay, based on what I've heard today, we could dig the channel, we could build wetlands right adjacent to the channel in the process for what is already been funded through the Corps, and we could move that material maybe a mile or two and build wetlands a mile or two from there, and it's going to cost us $150,000, and then we still don't have the $4 million secured for getting it the rest of the way.
Well, I don't know what the cost is on our side yet. You're throwing out a number, but that's not what we're talking about. You're talking about the construction side, which I have no numbers for, which
Sure,
I
based on the
can.
Corps of Engineers website, it's
Okay.
between $3.5 and $10 million.
Okay, and then
$4
there's-
million is what I've heard in.
Okay, that's the total cost, right?
For the Bud Mat portion, for getting it that final mile,
That's the total cost.
for the Bud Mat portion.
Okay, so then there's a match, correct?
Yes.
Which would be a percentage of that, correct? So that percentage could be 20%, 25%?
That is true.
So we're not talking 4 million, we'd be talking 1 million, correct? Is that correct?
Again, there are things that are out of our control at the federal level. We may or may not get this money, and it seems that it might be
Right.
premature to spend public funds on the engineering and design to get it that final mile when we could still get the pass dredge as the project sits today.
So you're
and still get the
asking
wetlands
us to
built.
hold off on our design agreement with the Corps that we've already signed and the council has already approved. Is that what you're asking today?
Yes, and there seems to be some uncertainty here. And,
So,
and
no, there's no uncertainty on me, but do you want us to stop doing any obligation to the agreement that we have already signed with the Corps?
Based on what I know, I can't support it.
You cannot support the agreement that you already approved.
Enough information.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, the issue of the day is just selecting the engineering firm that would do the work in kind. Now, if we want to deal with that issue, that's something that we can deal with separately, and I completely appreciate it. But I think the question that we're deciding on today is the team that we're using on the engineering side for work in kind to work with us on this project with the Corps.
I have some comments afterwards. Mr. Roussel?
Am I on? I think the confusion is that, when this project was presented to us, the $4 million wasn't our number. It came from y'all and the presenters. So the question is, as I understand it, is have y'all secured the additional $4 million to use the material beneficially? If not, the Corps has on the street today the dredging project, and will pursue the dredging project with or without this beneficial use concept added to it. You agree with that?
$4 million that you're talking about, you're talking about the $4 million to
asking you
complete, no, excuse me, I'm trying to make sure I got your correction very clear. I want to make sure that I'm understanding what you are saying, okay? And what Mr. Blink is saying. You're asking $4 million, is that secure for the completion of the Bud Mat project or for dredging of of Tiger Pass?
That's not my question.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to clarify. So-
Question, I'll make a statement. Let me do this because I don't want you correcting me anymore. I've had enough of that. When this project was presented to us, it was to add to the dredging project that the Corps has already funded, has on the street today, and will do, whether we move forward with this beneficial use project at all. We agree with that?
They're going to dredge no matter what. That's not the issue.
Okay.
The issue, we agree with that. The issue is, the question on the table is about the engineering firm they want to use. But as far as, I don't know specifically, and if the website's correct, then I'll take your word for it, what the cost is. But whatever that cost is, there will be a share from the port. So for that specific question, I would defer to Ms. Jackson and Mr. Broussard that we've talked to from the Corps. But they have the funds to dredge Tiger Pass, and those sediment would be used for beneficial use to move into a particular area that we agree upon. We all agree on that, absolutely.
Are you completed?
Am I missing something?
You missed it a lot. I'm trying to get to the bottom line that these individuals have asked a question. We don't have the beneficial use money on the table yet. We want to do a project with an engineering firm to design a plan to where we're going to put the material. And we're waiting on the Corps and these meetings to finalize the location. What really got my concern was that you kept saying that we are going to move this material to where it is economically beneficial. Now, are we forgetting about the perpetual environmental easement discussion that we had when we said that we were going to do this? We were going to use this money to build marsh that could not be developed because it would have an environmental easement across it. Is that still the case?
That is still the case.
So then, if we move forward with that, we got to find the $4 million somewhere, or 3.5 or 3.8, whatever the number is, as opposed to what we're concerned about today. Are we going to spend $150,000 to put an engineering plan on a shelf that we don't get the additional funds for, and they're going to use it on the sides of the channel anyway? That's the real issue.
My answer, and our answer would be no, we do not believe that to be the case.
If the $4 million was
Wait,
secured.
excuse me.
Go ahead.
Excuse me.
So the concern is that we don't know where we're going to get the $4 million. And this project will be done by the end of the year. It'll be awarded for the dredging of Tiger Pass with or without the Bud Mat project involved. And if that's the case, then we put a $150,000 study on the shelf because we won't use it, because we didn't acquire the $4 million. And I think that's the real issue.
Let's call a meeting with the Corps. I say we call a meeting with the Corps, and you guys come in, Mr. Roussel or any of y'all are want to come in, and let's hear it right from the Corps.
I'll be glad to do that.
Okay.
Still does not change the question at the table.
The question at the
Well,
table, I would recommend be
right.
deferred.
It has nothing to do with the fund issue, I'm sorry.
Finish, Mr. Rousseau.
Obviously so.
Mr. Goulet, Councilman Goulet.
For clarity, amongst all the confusion, the dredging of Tiger Pass, has that bid been let? The dredging of Tiger Pass, right now, there is ongoing bids let, or have they been awarded?
They have not been rewarded.
To what depth?
I don't know the
Ballpark.
specific feet,
Ballpark.
but it's 12 to 15 feet.
12 feet.
Right.
That has nothing to do with Bud Mat, correct? The 12-foot dredging?
The depth, that has nothing to do with where you put the beneficial use material. No,
Well, so
no.
the 12-foot depth, which is going to be let soon, they'll build a bank. And the Corps has decided where to build that bank, and that's why it's not costing us anything. Is there another phase to deepen Tiger Pass to a deeper depth for the Bud Mat material to be used? Or is the Bud Mat material to be used from this present dredging project, the 12-foot or whatever?
Right, that's what we're looking at is the current depth that they
So,
want to dredge to
Give
currently.
me a timeline on Bud Mat. They're dredging,
Right.
and let's say it takes a year to dredge to 12 feet, and then they're done. Are we still talking about coming back to dredge so we'll have Bud Mat material?
No, we're talking about dredging, using that material that they're currently looking at dredging.
Right now.
Right. Now, if you're looking at additionally dredging Tiger Pass to where it's fully navigable, that would be a separate issue, in which Mr. Sanders has talked about him going to D.C., I want to say 3 weeks ago, and we'll go up again to look for funds to fully dredge Tiger Pass to make it fully navigable. That's a separate issue.
Okay, good.
And that is probably, it was quoted to us in the neighborhood of 4 to 5 million in addition to the 9.5. All right. And my thought process was the mobilization cost is already there. If we can find the funds to do that, then we save on the mobilization costs and dig it out while they're right there to its authorized level.
And at the authorized level, that will have beneficial use material at that level. But what I'm gathering now is that the 12-foot dredging that's going to start soon, we're trying to get beneficial use material off of that. Okay.
And to be clear to Mr. Roussel's point about the environmental component, which I completely agree with.
Oh, yeah.
The environmental component also can serve as an economic component. So I don't want to miss it to where they're mutually exclusive. If we're able to protect our businesses, that is an economic and environmental interest. So I just want to clarify that because you're absolutely right, Mr. Roussel.
So, and I'm going to quit in a minute. Timeline, speaking of timelines, what is the timeline to complete the present dredging project that's going to start soon? When is that supposed to be done? Do we know?
John, do you have a number on that?
About a year. So,
Okay, it's on. The bid is out, started September 1st. If it's not for maintenance and operation, which will bring us down to that 12-foot depth, what we're trying to do is partner the Bud Mat to use that material while they're in there doing the maintenance, and pick a site that will provide protection for the lower end of Tidewater Road around the plants, the Targa plant, the Shell plant, stuff like that. There's some areas right up in there, and you can see it on the map that I provided for y'all at the last council update in TP10. That's a separate project running side by side with the operations and maintenance dredge. Now, they have until September 30th to get a response, to get a contractor to pick up the bid if it's awarded. If it's not awarded, it can delay the maintenance dredging, 3 months, 6 months? It'll go back in the cycle because the budget starts over again in October. So we're kind of on a string to which side we can use. All the work that needs to be done now has to be ready. If this operation and maintenance gets denied, then it can fall back under Bud Mat to open the pass. So unless we get a contractor, but we need to know what we have available out there.
and that's the 12 feet.
That's the 12
What's
feet.
what's full depth?
I want 30?
Yeah.
Is it
Tiger Pass?
Yeah, 22 plus 2.
22? Yeah, that's right, 22 plus 2. Tiger Pass.
Thank you, guys.
Richie? Councilman Blake?
Sure. Can we reasonably expect to secure the money, the $4 million, the rest of the money for the Bud Mat portion of this by the time it's ready to go to construction? It's a very, very quick turnaround. It's lightning quick in Corps of Engineers time.
Right. You're exactly right. You're hitting the nail on the head, and that's why we've been having these weekly, not monthly, but weekly meetings, and everyone at the Corps staff fully understands the speed in which they have to run, which is not normal for the Army Corps. And so these meetings are happening at a light speed pace so that we can move forward. So you're absolutely right, on par with that.
Thank you.
Kean,
Yeah.
Kean.
Should we wait for the Corps to let the bid before we start incurring cost with the coastal engineering firm?
Only reason why we're asking to bring in the coastal engineering firm is because we are, as I just spoke with Mr. Blank about, moving at lightning speed with these weekly meetings to determine where we would want to move this so that we are ready once the dredging has happened. So that's why we're moving at this speed. I think John would agree with that. And so to delay this would actually put us behind, and we could lose this opportunity. So that's why we're trying to move forward and stay at the same pace as the Corps is moving.
Donovan?
Coastal Restoration Man and the contract we have with Coastal Solutions already to do the project, we need to hire them again?
The contract, the agreement with the Corps is with the port, not with parish government.
Yeah, but Kirk was on the thing signing the paper too.
Well, he was wrong. So I spoke to Michelle Cornick about that because I talked to John and I said, well, that's not the way it works. The design agreement is with the port, not with Plaquemines Parish government. And so anything that happens has to go through the port and not parish government. Now, John is working with the port and coming to the meetings, because we understand that the port and parish government are working together. But as far as who's communicating to whom, who's signing documents, everything that's dealing with the Corps on this project has to come through the port.
Go through the port and you using him right now, right?
He's working with us. Well, he's working with us and we're working with him on different things. So it's mutual, and we appreciate his help that Kurt has allowed him to attend the meetings as he sees fit and as he can. But this is a port project with the Corps.
Again, if we're going to use him, we could use Coastal Solutions because we got a contract with him.
Well, the port doesn't have a contract with them.
He does.
That's right. The port has an agreement with the Corps, and the port needs to have an engineering firm to contract with. And based on the relationship between parish government and Coastal Engineering Solutions, they have made a recommendation that we use Coastal Engineering Solutions. And based on looking at all the options of great companies, that recommendation helps us in making this recommendation to the board. But the agreement would be that they will work in kind with the port with this Corps project. We cannot say to parish government, hey, just let them have that contract with you, and then the port tells them what to do while you have the contract with parish government. That's not the way this is working. Yeah.
And then, the reason why it's 12 feet at the end of Tiger Pass and Baptiste Colette?
Why?
Who's going to pay Chevron to shut off the pipeline to lower it so you could dredge it to 25 feet?
Gotcha.
So not only $4 million now for the mud map project, if we're going to deepen it to 25 feet, that's extra money we're going to have to pay.
My concern is the securing of the additional money for the beneficial use of the material. I don't see anybody coming to the table with that money. You got a commitment from CPRA that says they're going to put that money up? I'm tired of this, He's pointing at you, you pointing at him.
That's because we're working together. We're working together.
$4 million to add to this project. Anybody in the room?
Blueberry?
I'm a little confused. What's the difference between the Corps and us hiring this engineering firm? So what is the engineering firm going to do that the Corps is not going to do? So just enlighten me a little bit.
It's working kind. The role, well, usually you would have an in-house engineering team working with the Corps on a design project. We don't have anyone in-house, so we have to contract out for engineering services. Working with the Corps on determining where the sediment would go. And so within that match portion that we've, in the design agreement, the funds from that match would pay for coastal engineering services. So this is not additional funds that we've agreed to. This is within the funds that we've agreed to within the match. So, for example,
It's normal to have an engineering firm involved in this.
right, if you do not have an in-house engineering firm like most small ports do. I mean, if I was at a port further upriver, I would have a team of 7 people that would go to these meetings and not me. And so I have a lot of friends who are engineers, but I'm not one of them. So it helps us of having people that are experts in this field to get our point across of what we're looking for in this agreement, and also being able to work with the Corps.
Councilman Black?
Yeah, I don't think 2 weeks is going to kill anybody. I'd respectfully ask for a deferral so we can get everybody on the same page. Mr. Chairman, if you would.
As soon as Mr. Conover makes his comment, we'll defer it. I mean, I don't have a problem.
Nobody wants to see it dredged more than me.
Mm-hmm.
It adds up 2 hours to my life if I want to go offshore.
Right.
So, but I'm hiring an engineering firm before I have money. And I know you got to engineer things, but the Corps engineers already engineered it. That's what I gotta say.
Last question from Mr. Clerk.
I'll second Kogovich's statements there. I planted 5,000 trees right around the corner from where that sediment's going to go. I'd say nobody wants to see it done more than me. But later on in this same meeting, in this same room, we have discussions about how we're running a very, very tight ship.
No one's asking
Issues with the-
PPG to bring money. This is a port project, so this is
I
a different
wasn't
meeting that you're
referring to
talking
that.
about. I just want to make that clear, that's all.
I was
Okay.
thinking more about, mosquito control and the ferries and things like that. I wasn't going there.
Sure.
But anyway, I've done a lot of work around coastal restoration right in that area. I know it well, and I want to see sediment placed as far as we can get it up in the basins. I don't think it's the most prudent decision to do right now with the funding we have and the uncertainty around securing that funding at the federal or state level. Thank you.
I'm going to withdraw my second.
Ms. Newberry withdrawing a second. Item is deferred.
Six D, a resolution to amend and as amended, readopt resolution number 19-193 authorizing Maynard J. Sandy Sanders, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to enter into a memorandum of agreement with the U.S. Army Engineer, New Orleans District, concerning the provision of funds pursuant to the Section 2106 of the Water Resources Reform and Development Act of 2014, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Offer as read. Second by Councilman Konovich. Questions from the table?
Just an explanation from the...
Mr. LaFrance?
I would like to see the memorandum agreement before approval.
The memorandum agreement was already sent to the entire board. You guys have already voted on this. This is just a housekeeping measure. There were certain typos within the bottom of the resolution, so we're just correcting the resolution on what you guys have already agreed upon.
Any comments, other
Do we
comments?
know the amounts of the funds?
I don't have them with me. I want to say it's 2.5, but I don't have the number offhand because we've already discussed this issue. This was just a housekeeping measure.
Councilman Rustow?
Just for the housekeeping, could you tell us what we're correcting and why we're correcting it?
In the amendment, you should have the highlighted portion. There was language from the BudMat agreement that you guys approved that was unfortunately inserted in this MOA agreement for just simply, it was a typo. And so we're inserting the right language in there because the BudMat language was never supposed to be in there. So we're just correcting that. That's all. So there's no confusion. But the concept of what we're doing that's in the preamble, in the whereases, and the now therefores is there. We're just cleaning up the language. That's all we're doing. There's nothing that is conceptually being changed in what you agreed on.
So could you explain for the public's benefit what we agreed on and what this does?
Well, we're energy port, so there's certain funds that are given to energy ports for maintenance and could be used for dredging within the jurisdiction. So those funds also come from the Corps on a separate issue. And so because we're an energy port, we're able to receive these funds and use them within the district. And if we don't use them, we lose them.
And so we have a project that we're going to use this $2 million on?
Well, not the entire amount, but we have that available. But we're looking at projects within the districts. And again, we're working with Mr. Helmers on looking at what opportunities we can have. Because as you know, we can't necessarily use it on the private docks, but there may be some harbors that we can use this on.
This could be used like in the Buras Boat Harbor?
In the Buras, all the boat harbors.
Venice.
We can use it to finish up Venice. We can use it in Point LaHash, Buras, Empire. Within all the boat harbors, this money can be allocated to make any improvements we need, like the rock wall that we would need in the Buras Boat Harbor. That would all fall under improvements there, cleaning up and dredging over in the Point LaHash that would also, this monies would be available for all that.
Right.
That's the intention of this project,
That's the intention.
but you're not doing it, the port's doing it?
That's right.
Got it.
I'm working with the port on it.
Any other comments? Audience? Questions? Machine is open, please, open. Passes 9-0. Next item, please.
There are no introductions of resolutions wherein a suspension is being sought. Number 8, approval of the August 22nd, 2019 meeting minutes.
Offer is there a second? Second, Mr. Conover. All in favor? Machine, open, all in favor.
You reverted back to those days, huh?
Yeah. It passes 9-0. With that, the court meeting is adjourned. I'm sorry, we need a motion to adjourn. So offer, Rousseau, second by Conovich. Mr. Conovich. The machine is open. Meeting is adjourned. I'm sorry. Didn't come up yet. 9-0, meeting adjourned at 1:59.